Get faster internet speeds for free when you get TV, internet, and phone. Ask for Trio from Rev.
Join the revolution.
Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight, the Attorney General is disappointed by recent job losses at Sandals Royal Bahamian Resort.
PLP MP Dion Smith chooses sides in the party's leadership race. That story straight ahead.
Police console family members on the scene of an apparent suicide. Welcome to our news. I'm Christina McNeil. Thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight, one day after the Labor Minister accused Sandals of keeping the government in the dark over redundancies and suggested the resort did not want to avoid job cuts, the Attorney General also lashed out at Sandals officials. Allison Maynard-Gibson told our news team she is disappointed in how Sandals handled the situation given its relationship with the Bahamas government. Giorgio Sturp reports.
Attorney General Allison Maynard-Gibson responded to the redundancy of those 600 Sandals employees, saying that the government was simply caught off guard and now they'll do everything in their power to seek justice for those employees. Gibson said the government has a right to be disappointed in the way the resort handled the recent redundancy exercise.
All of the relevant ministers, including the Prime Minister, expressed disappointment that given the excellent relationship that exists between the government and the union and investors, that the government did not have the opportunity to actually be made aware of this whole situation. It's just a matter of good industrial relations practice, apart from anything else, that the Ministry of Labor ought to have been consulted.
Labor Minister Shane Gibson said yesterday he believes Sandals chose to keep the government in the dark over pending redundancies because it did not want to talk to the government about possible ways to save jobs for over 600 workers. While the Attorney General agreed today that the government was denied the opportunity to make the situation any better.
The Prime Minister, when there has been union strife in the past, and there has been an outreach to the government, either government ministers themselves or parties who are skilled at conciliation, Archbishop Neil Ellis, for example, comes readily to mind, have been brought to the table to assist the parties in bringing about resolution. So all of these kinds of opportunities were denied the government, and there's grave disappointment in that regard.
The Sandals Royal Bahamian Resort closed on Monday for several weeks to carry out what executives described as necessary repairs and renovations. The resort has promised to rehire the same number of employees once it reopens. Maynard Gibson said government intends to keep a close eye on the situation.
The government will be holding them, the Ministry of Labor and other government agencies, firm to what they have published as their intention, to expedite the repairs at the resort, to expedite those repairs, to open the resort, which is key to our winter season, on October 14th, and to immediately commence the process of engagement of Bahamians and certain numbers of who will be engaged, including potentially persons who are already employed.
Reporting for our news, I'm Giorgio Sturp.
Well, Long Island MP Loretta Butler Turner had some harsh words for Sandals Resort's chairman and deputy chairman. Dana Smith tells us more.
The Shadow Minister of Labor said what happened at Sandals was simply wrong. She charged the Sandals executives disregarded and showed a lack of respect for not only the government, but the Bahamian people.
Sandals Resorts International Chairman Gordon Butch Stewart said Sandals had no choice but to close down the resort to complete renovations. But Butler Turner said things could have been handled differently.
Both Mr. Stewart's, Butch, whom I do know personally, and his son Adam, they've shown a great disregard and disrespect first to the country through our government and to their employees, and I would admonish them to try and make it right.
Butler Turner also questioned how many expatriate workers, if any, also found themselves out of a job.
It is wrong the way that this has been handled, the way that they have disrespected the people of the Bahamas. And I cannot say strongly enough that as much as we welcome their investment in our country, we also must say that you cannot do so. You cannot have an investment where you disrespect first our government and our people.
Butler Turner also pointed to Gibson's assertion that the government may have intentionally been left in the dark. She said she finds it very strange that a $4 million renovation project is taking place, yet nobody knew anything about it.
I lay the blame squarely at the feet of the government for this breakdown in the relationships.
The union representing Sandals workers has also criticized the government for failing to act to help save jobs. Butler Turner said it's clear the interests of the Bahamian people are not being well served by this Christie administration, and she accused Gibson of dropping the ball.
Shane Gibson openly admits that he had no idea. This is a man that was elected and escalated to the top of his political life through unionism and standing up for Bahamians, who at this point has clearly dropped the ball for whatever reason.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Dana Smith.
In other news, police were called to the scene of an apparent suicide in the area of Murphyville in Palmdale this morning. That's where an elderly man's body was found hanging from a tree behind his home. Simone Davis was on the scene and has the details.
Nearly 2 months after a father of 3 took his own life, police found the body of a man believed to be in his 70s hanging from a tree at the rear of his house in this area. Head of the Central Detective Unit, Chief Superintendent Clayton Fernander, said the discovery was made at around 10:30 this morning.
The only information we have at this time that family members, they went out leaving their uncle at home. When they returned, they made checks for him. He was not in the house. On checking the property, the backyard, they discovered him hanging from the tree. The EMS personnel was contacted. They checked the body and found no signs of life.
While police are in the preliminary stages of their investigation, Fernander said officers found no signs of foul play.
We're going to continue our investigation. We're going to wait for our autopsy report. We're going to continue our door-to-door inquiries to see if anybody may have seen or heard anything. But at this stage, there's nothing to suggest foul play.
Fernander said family members were in complete shock and told police they saw no signs of depression or anything that would lead the man to take his own life.
Family members are very surprised of what happened because there was no kind of signs of any disturbance or any problem with him, no kind of signs based on what they're saying. So at this time, and you know, investigation is like a puzzle. When you visit a scene, you put the pieces together and eventually you get a clear picture.
Back in June, the body of 48-year-old Randolph Sweeting was found hanging from the rafters in his tool shed. The CDU chief had this message for anyone who may be suffering from depression or having suicidal thoughts.
To pay attention to their loved ones. If you're going through any problem, find somebody who you can talk to. Reach out to your pastor, somebody who you are comfortable with.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Simone Davis.
And Nassau Village MP Dion Smith has thrown his support behind Prime Minister Perry Christie as the person to lead the Progressive Liberal Party into the next general election. However, Smith admitted today that the Prime Minister's tenure has not been without its mistakes. Jasmine Brown reports.
Thanks, Christina. Smith made his comments during a press conference at his BAIC offices this morning, where he outlined why he cannot support Sayers and is choosing to follow behind Christie. Sayers announced his leadership bid earlier this month. When asked what he thought about Sayers' chances of defeating Christie, Smith says he believes they are slim, especially considering the former education minister and attorney general is not a sitting MP.
No, I don't like to be too pessimistic. That is as much as I would say there. I think that if perhaps I was running for leadership of the party, maybe I would have gotten more support, especially from the members who I sit with.
Smith says Christie appears to have a better plan for both the PLP and the country, but suggested that the Prime Minister has made some mistakes and unpopular decisions along the way, including underutilizing young people like himself.
Maybe he made the mistake by not giving me more power, allowing me to do more for the, to represent the new generation of leaders in this country. So maybe that's a mistake that he made.
At 40 years old, Smith is the youngest serving PLP MP in the House of Assembly. While he called Christie an older generation leader, he says the past 4 years as an MP have taught him to appreciate Christie's style of leadership.
Me as a young person, I may, do something right away. Whereas because of his experience, he may have taken a little while longer to come to the decision. But I've realized that sometimes, it's better to be cautious out of an abundance of caution.
Now, Smith says while he does have his preferred candidate, he is a team player and will follow behind whoever becomes leader of the PLP. Reporting from BAIC headquarters for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown. Back to you in studio, Christina.
Still to come on our news, Shawnee Miller speaks out on her gold medal win. Senators begin debate on the National Health Insurance Bill, and the Deputy Speaker of the House of Assembly weighs in on a controversial court ruling. That's coming up when our news returns.